Welcome everyone to another episode of Value Digest. My name is Charles Adetola, and the theme for this episode is Start Your Own Business and Achieve Freedom and Flexibility. And on this episode with me, I have Anna Lundberg. She's based in the UK. She is the founder of One Step Outside, where she helps people around the world build businesses and create a lifestyle that allows them an unlimited sense of freedom, flexibility, and fulfillment. She is the host of Reimagining Success podcast and the author of Leaving a Corporate 9-to-5. Personally, Anna is someone that has contributed a lot to my development, and she's someone every business owner should try and engage with. Thank you for joining me, Anna.
Thank you, Charles, for having me. It's such a pleasure, and I'm so glad to hear that you've got so much value from working with me.
All right. So Anna will be taking us through why you should start your own business and achieve freedom and flexibility, and how and what the transition is going to be like. Up to you, Anna.
Sure, yeah. So it's a funny topic for me because I certainly never thought of myself as being entrepreneurial. I think a lot of us think, that's a special species of human being, and, I'm not a risk taker, I'm not an entrepreneur. And just to explain my own background, I call myself sort of the good girl. I did the standard path always of school, university, good job, and so on. But then in 2013, it wasn't that I hated my job. I just felt there was a bit of a disconnect. I felt like I wasn't doing, sort of what my heart wanted to do. I wasn't thinking in those terms then, but I just felt a disconnect between the work I was doing and the work I felt I should be doing. It just wasn't really meaningful to me. And I started sort of exploring this idea of success and what that looks like for us all. I think there's that traditional conventional definition that you need that good job and then getting the pension and retiring and so on. So I started questioning some of those assumptions. And it actually started by traveling. I took a sabbatical, a break from work to travel a little bit. And it was during that travel that I met lots of incredible people. It sort of opened my eyes to different ways of working and living. And then halfway through that trip, I actually quit my job, which I don't necessarily recommend that people do because, of course, you need to make sure you have a safety net and so on. But for me, that felt like the right decision. And that was, a bit of a long background story, but just to tell you where I'm coming to this topic from. So that was almost 6 years ago now, I guess. And there have been lots of twists and turns since then. But I have, as you said in the intro and the whole topic we're talking about here, I've come to the belief that running your own business is the best way to get the freedom to be creative, to make your own choices, to run your life and career as you want to. The flexibility, whether it's flexibility to take care of a young family at home, to work from home, or whatever it might look like, to travel maybe, and also fulfillment, because we all want to do interesting work, hopefully. So I really believe that running your own business is the best way to do that. You don't have a boss, you design the business exactly how it should work.
And how was the transition for you?
Yeah, so again, it wasn't very linear. So I certainly hadn't really heard of coaching almost when I left. I hadn't heard of podcasts. I wasn't doing any of these kinds of interviews. So it was quite a sort of a detour, I suppose, I took. Initially, I came from a digital marketing background, so that's what I did. I set up my consultancy, like yourself, I think, helping people, and in fact working with corporations initially. But then after a couple of years, I realized, although this is great, I'm leveraging my skills, I'm getting money, I was enjoying it, it was still too close to the work I was doing before. So now I always tell people that's a great place to get started. Leverage the skills that you already have, the network that you have, the background and so on. So don't necessarily, as I later did, throw that away and use. It's a great start. I've always wanted to write, so writing is really important to me. And then gradually over time, I've been able to combine the marketing consulting that I had with the new skills I learned from coaching and writing. So one message, of course, is that it takes much longer than you realize. I think I probably thought that was the one decision that I'd made, and ta-da, miracle, I will now have my most incredible life, and that's it. So it's definitely been hard work, but I honestly can say it's the best decision I ever made. And again, the fact that I'm talking here with you and being able to talk to people in your country, and it's just an incredible experience what I'm doing now. So I'm able to write, I'm able to work with people, to hear wonderful impact I'm having on other people and so on, and make a living. So all good. And I'm sure things will change again in the future, but for now at least I'm in a really lovely place where, as I said, I'm combining my skills and what I enjoy doing and having a great...
That's great, Anna. Thank you very much. I have two questions for you. And the first one is, when do you think is the ideal time to start building your own business? Is it until you start getting some triggers, probably you don't have enough time for family, or what are the triggers? What do you think are the factors that determine when you should start your own business?
That's such a good question, and I'm afraid there isn't really a good time, probably, is the answer. I think in my experience there are two scenarios. One is like me, you sort of get worn down over time, so just gradually it just feels like, I'm tired, I'm maybe going towards burnout. Maybe I'm earning money but I'm not enjoying the work, or maybe I'm enjoying the work but I'm not earning enough money, whatever the reason is. And just over time you gradually feel this is not working for me. That's one scenario. And then the other scenario is some kind of trigger. Maybe you actually do burn out, or you're made redundant. Unfortunately, that can sometimes be a push to take that leap. Or even sometimes people are promoted and then they realize, this wasn't what I expected it to be. So as I said, either that first scenario happening gradually or perhaps some trigger. Another trigger could perhaps be that you want to start a young family, or especially I think for women, they maybe have young children and they realize they can't actually find an interesting, fulfilling job that has the flexible working hours that they need. So that's another scenario. So again, there's no right time. I think probably the right time is when you feel you get to that point when the pain of staying where you are is greater than the fear of taking the leap, because often we stay in that comfort zone. My whole brand is one step outside your comfort zone, and it's so easy just to stay there. And I think we'll all get to that point, or at least some of us get to that point, where that so-called comfort zone is no longer very comfortable, and that's as good a time as any to at least begin thinking about leaving and planning it and so on. I again don't recommend that you just shout at your boss and say I quit and run out the door. That's probably not a good idea.
Thank you very much. So my last question for the episode is, I want to understand the role of digital marketing in starting your own business. You have a background in digital marketing, it helped a lot. What about those that don't have a background in digital marketing, or somewhere like Africa where digital marketing is still in the development stage? How do we go about it? How do you implement digital marketing? How do you use that to aid starting your business?
Oh yes, good question, and quite complex question, a few different dimensions there. I mean, when I started digital marketing, it was a sort of a new part of the marketing mix. We'd been doing television and radio and newspapers and magazines, and then suddenly there was this online and banners online, and we did advertising essentially online, had a website. Now I'd say everything in marketing is digital, right? So there almost isn't such a thing as digital, because everything you do is online. But the way that looks is very different. Yeah, so we all need you is the point, right? So, but I mean, I think to some extent you're actually way ahead of us because of the way things have happened, that it's come later in a way. In terms of, if you're not so comfortable with it, I suppose the only thing you can do is start learning. You don't necessarily have to invest in a really expensive course, but begin to listen to podcasts, watch videos on YouTube, things like social media and so on. They are free when you first start, and you'll be able to have conversations with people, maybe start a group, a community, an email, newsletter, whatever it is, something simple, maybe text messages or whatever works for you. And then you'll gradually learn over time. I think we often either have time or money. So if you have a lot of time and not so money, you can go the slow route of learning and trying and so on. If you have money and not so much time, of course, you can pay the experts to do it, or you can, get an agency or whatever it is. So definitely everything now is digital marketing. Starting your own business is easier than ever before because of that, because we have all these tools available, but it also means that there are a lot of people out there, so competition of course is quite fierce, but it's an exciting opportunity to learn new things. I'm learning new things every day. Again, podcasting I'd never heard of, and now I have my own podcast, and there's a lot of technology and all sorts of things to learn there as well. So I think it's exciting. Don't put too much pressure on yourself right away to do all the things. Maybe choose one or two things, learn a little bit, and then you'll gradually raise the bar as you go. And before you know it, you'll be using all these incredible tools and things that you've never heard of a few years ago.
Thank you very much, Anna. It's an honor having you on this episode. We've really learned a lot, and I'm sure a lot of people, a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs in Africa are going to learn a lot from this.
Such a pleasure. And again, great questions, and I really hope it is useful, and I'd love to hear people's thoughts and maybe see them over in the Facebook group or listening to the podcast.
All right. Thank you very much. And that will be the end of this